Hi, this is Bilal from Speckle. In this video, we are going to create this dashboard. We will send the model from Revit, filter it in Power BI, extract the parameters, do some manipulation, color it, add tooltip data, highlight elements across visuals, so on and so forth. So, without further ado, let's get started. In order to follow this tutorial, you need three things. First, you need to have the Speckle account on speckle.xyz. So let me quickly show you that. So if you go to this address, speckle.xyz, you can create a free account. It is completely free. It has no limitation. You can give it a try and see the value. After that, you need to have the Revit connector, the Speckle's connector for Revit. The next one is the Power BI data connector. I've already recorded separate videos on how to install the Revit connector, how to install the Power BI connector, as well as the 3D Viewer visual. So there will be a pop-up in the top right corner of this video. Go there, watch them, complete the steps, complete the installations, and come back so you can follow up with me. So I will be using the Revit sample advanced project because I want you to follow my steps in this video. Okay. So once you install the Speckle connector, you will have a new tab like this, Speckle. So you can activate the Revit connector by simply clicking on this button, right? Once you do that, the Revit plugin will get activated and you will see this UI. So the first thing we need to have to interact with Speckle is a project, is a stream, right? I already have created a stream called Power BI Tutorials, but you can create a new one. So I will use the Power BI Tutorials project in this case. And inside project, you can have multiple connections, multiple models. And by default, every project contains a main branch, main model. But you can add as many models as you want. In this case, I already created an empty model for this use case, and I named it as Visualizing Revit Rooms. If you want to create a new model, you can simply click on this Add New Branch button and give your model a name. So I will pick this one, Visualizing Revit Rooms, and then I will send everything. So let me quickly give you a tip here. Instead of sending everything, if you are only interested in rooms, you can actually expand the selection dialog, click on this drop-down menu and select category instead of sending everything. And from this dialog, simply select rooms and send that, right? It is more logical, and I would definitely recommend you to do it in real life use cases. But in this video, I want to show you how to filter data in Power BI. So that's why I want to send everything from Revit and then filter it out in Power BI. Okay, so once you're set, we are going to send to this Visualizing Revit Rooms branch, and we are going to send everything. I will simply click on Send. Okay, once the upload is complete, we can view our model in the Speckle server. So let's view it. And look at that, our Revit model is now inside Speckleverse. So if you check the organization of your Speckle project, you can see the first container is your project, the biggest level of organization, right? In my case, it is Power BI Tutorials. The next one is the model you create, and models are called as branches currently in Speckle. So this model can contain multiple versions of data, and we are actively viewing one version of our model. Instead of copying the specific version's URL, I will copy the model's URL. So whenever we send a new version from Revit, those updates will get reflected in the Power BI side. Okay, so let's copy the URL and go back to Power BI now. So inside Power BI, let's receive the data. To receive data in Power BI, simply go to Get Data, and here search for Speckle. Once you do that, you will have two options. And in this video, we are going to go with the second one, not the structured beta, the default one. The structured beta is an experimental receiving method we are trying, but if you are planning to use the Power BI connector in production environment, currently we recommend you to stick with the default one. Okay, let's click on connect and paste the URL and click OK. All right, this took about 30 to 40 seconds. I will click on transform data instead of loading it directly. All right, so here we are. As I told you before in previous videos, by default, the Power BI connector automatically generates a couple columns for you. These three, stream URL, commit object ID, and object ID columns are useful for the 3D viewer visual. The URL types indicates the type of the URL we paste in. So in this case, we have pasted a branch URL, and the Speckle type column contains the type of every object received, right? So let's start with filtering the rooms. If you remember from the extracting category information video, there are multiple ways to filter categories in Power BI and Power Query. I showed you 3 different methods. In this video, I will go with the first one and filtering by the Speckle type. So let's do it. I already know the Speckle type of room elements, and I can actually find it simply by clicking on this arrow icon and search for room. Once you do that, you can see the Speckle type of Revit rooms are objects.build_elements.rooms. So I will select the build elements and press OK. This will filter only the room elements from all the received data. Perfect. Now I only have my rooms. So let's actually load this and quickly see it in the 3D viewer visual. So I will click on close and apply. Okay, it is loaded and my query is right here. Query 1 with the columns. So let's quickly import the 3D viewer visual. I will click on this 3 dots and select import a visual from a file. And then from my downloads folder, I will select the latest release candidate visual. Import was successful. Okay, and let's add the visual into the canvas by simply clicking on it. So once your visual is active, it asks for a couple inputs. And I already showed you how to view your model in 3D. It is pretty simple. Simply drag the stream URL column into the stream URL input, the commit object ID into the commit object ID input, and object ID into the object ID input. Once you do that, your viewer visual will get activated. And ta-da! As you can see, I still have the full context of my model, but since I filtered rooms, I only see rooms in my visual, but rest of the model is showing up as ghosted. If you don't like this, which I don't have, to be honest, so I will deactivate the ghosted, so only the selected elements, in this case rooms, will be visible. To do that, simply select the visual, go to visualization pane and select format your visual. From this dialog, expand the object display and change the context display option from ghosted to hidden. So once you do that, only rooms will be visible and everything else will be gone. Perfect. So now let's extract some parameters. I'm going to go back to the Power Query by clicking on the transform data. And this will open up the Power Query editor. If you remember, all the data about objects are stored in the data column and inside records. So if we examine one of the records, we can see it contains the name of the room, its area, its level, its number, and its parameters, right? In this case, we are interested in parameters, even though the parameters we want to extract are name, number, level, right? But I want to show you something. I want to show you a function we've added in Power Query into the Speckle namespace that makes interacting with Revit parameters really, really easy. Okay, so let's quickly extract the parameters field from this records. So I will go to the add column and click on custom column, which will open the custom column dialog. I will name my column as parameters, and then this parameters key lives in the data column, and inside every record, it is under the parameters field. So I will simply use the lookup function and put the data and parameters into square brackets. So once I click OK, I will have a new column with every parameter object from every row. Perfect. So if I select one of the parameter objects, I can also preview its structure like so. So I can see it has an ID, it has a Speckle type, it has an application ID, total children count, and these four comes by default with every Speckle base objects, right? And then the parameters itself are actually another nested records, right? So room area is stored inside the room area field, and inside this record we have multiple stuff. If you remember from the extracting parameters video, I already explained you why this is the case, because Revit parameters are complex and they are not simple key value pairs. They can contain multiple settings. So in order to store that, we need to have another nested records inside the parameters object. So what we will do now is I want to add a new column, and I will name it as parameters 2, right? And inside this record, I will have the name of the parameter as the field and its value as its value. Let's do that. So I will simply click on this function, which will add a step. And the thing we want to do is we want to add a new column, right? I will simply type in table.add column. And then I will open parentheses. It asks for the table name. In this case, our table name is the previous step, which is edit custom. So I will add that. Start with the hash symbol. Edit custom is right here. So this is our table input. The new column name will be parameters extracted. Let's do it like this. And then the function we want to call. So for each record in the column, call Speckle dot Revit dot, it's right here, parameters dot to name value record. Okay, and then open parentheses. It asks for R as records. In this case, it is going to be the parameters object, right? So I will press OK. And this will add a new column. So if you check, we have a new column, but the difference between these two is the one on the left is the old one, has nested records, right? If we check the one on the right, this one only has the name value pairs. So we have extracted the name field and the value field from every parameter object inside the parameters record. Perfect. So now I can extract whatever I want. I will actually expand this column and select area, name, level, number, and I guess that's it. And I will click on OK. But before I do that, I will uncheck the use original column name as prefix option and press OK. So once I do that, those 4 or 5 columns I checked will get added and replace the parameter extracted column. Perfect. So now we are ready for our visualization, but I actually realized something else. The data type of the area column and the number column, it's not correct. These are not strings, these are numbers. So let's fix that. I will simply click on this and select whole number because numbers are whole numbers. And also for area, I will click on this and change it to decimal number. Oops. Okay, perfect, because this is important for our visuals. If we were to get the summary of area, it won't get correctly calculated if the data types are not correct. Okay, so let's load this back into the Power BI. And here it is. We have 4 or 5 new columns. The name, number, level, and area are here. We can see this symbol right next to the area and number, which indicates the data types are correctly assigned. Let's rename this query into rooms. And now let's start interacting with the data, right? I will create a visual that will show the room areas by level, right? Let's do that. So I will add a pie chart, maybe. Let's make it like this, a bit smaller. And then I will say the legend will be level, value will be areas. Ta-da! Just like that. I will also add a slicer object. So let's do that. I will click on slicer, make this one, oops. Let's actually collapse the filters and make this one smaller and drag and drop the name into the slicer. So I can see the name of my rooms here. Perfect. And I will also add a tree map visual, and drag and drop the area as the values and names as the category. Okay, so now let's add some tooltip data into the 3D Viewer visual. So when I select an element, I can quickly see some information about the selected object. So we can do so by simply dragging and dropping any column into the tooltip data area. In this case, I will drag and drop the name and number, and also let's get level. Perfect. I will rename this from first name to name by simply removing the first. Let's do the same for level. This one will be number, so I'll rename this and remove the sum of from here. Okay, perfect. So now when I select an element, I can see its name, its number, and its level. Let's do the same for some other objects. This one is stair, this one is office, this one is conference, so on and so forth. One thing you might realize is when I select an element here, they also get highlighted in the other visuals, and that's the beauty of the 3D Viewer visual. It enables you to highlight across visuals. So when you select an element in another visual, it also gets highlighted in here. So in this case, we have highlighted the second floor, and here they are, the second floor elements. We can do the same for the third floor and also for the entry level. So now I will color my rooms by their level in 3D Viewer visual. And again, it's pretty easy. Simply drag the level column into the color by input. And ta-da, just like that. And colors are also matching, which is pretty nice. So now I can try interacting with my model like so. Let's quickly filter out all the admins. Looks like we only had one. Let's filter out corridors. Here they are. Let's quickly filter out maybe offices. We can also see the distribution per level as well as the summary of area in here. All right, so this is how you color your rooms by their level parameter. Let's do the same for this other visual and color the 3D Viewer visual by the room names. We can do so by simply replacing this level column. I'm going to remove that and replace it with the name. So now color each room per name will get a unique color. So let's start interacting with this tree map visual and you'll realize something. So I will highlight all the instruction rooms in my model and you immediately realize that the colors are not matching, right? And that is probably going to be a possible scenario in your case when you were trying to evaluate the Speckle's 3D Viewer visual and you see the colors are not matching across visuals. That is because of the sorting of the 3D Viewer visual. You need to make sure that the sorting of the 3D Viewer visual is similar to the other visual. So in this case, each room is colored by the sum of their area. So each individual instruction room has an area parameter. Its total is highlighted as the blue color. But if we check the sorting of our 3D Viewer visual, that there's this sort by parameter right here, and it's sorted by their names. So instead of name, this should be the sum of their area. So how do I get access to the sum of area here? So currently that is by adding the area input into the tooltip data. So if you do that, it will automatically suggest getting the sum of area, which is what we want in our 3D Viewer visual. So I will select the 3D Viewer visual, go to three dots, sort by, and replace the name with the sum of area. So once you do that, probably nothing is going to change because currently 3D Viewer visual does not automatically detect changes that happened in the sorting. So in order to activate the visual to reflect those changes, you need to reset the visual, and you can do so by simply selecting the visual, use Ctrl X in your keyboard, and then paste it back into the dashboard, which will force the visual to recalculate everything. And here is the model is loading, and now the colors are correct. They are blue. Let's check the lobby. Here they are. The colors are perfectly matching. So you changed the sorting, but if it's still not matching, make sure the sorting, descending, ascending, is also matching with the other visual. That might be another possible reason. All right, so that was it. In this video, we created this beautiful visual using the Power BI connector and the 3D Viewer visual. We received the data from Revit. We have filtered out what we want from it. We have extracted some parameters. We have used the newly added toNameValueRecord function to convert Revit parameter objects into much more readable record elements. We have created this pie charts and tree map visuals that are perfectly matching with the 3D Viewer visual. And I also shared some possible problems you might face and how to solve them. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give this a thumbs up. If you have any questions, just let us know in the comment section below, or even better at speckle.community. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.